one question I had for you, Terry or Tom. So we are in this pandemic that is affecting all of us, and we have an uncertain future, knowing what's going to happen in the fall. I understand UB has received CARES money for students. If something unforeseen happens in the fall, will you be dispersing that money to our students also?
We expect we will. The CARES money, you're going to think Tom has many heads. Tom is also the czar over the CARES program, and he can be more specific about it. But it's not just a broad sweep of money that's available. You have to be able to clearly identify what expenses did you have that were created by UBALT shifting to an online modality for delivering courses. An example would be you were dependent on using campus hotspots, and now you have to subscribe to internet to have reliable connections, or you have to upgrade your computer, things like that. So that is it. CARES money is not awarded because you lost your job, unfortunately. Without making any political statements, the Secretary of Education, there was a big splash when this money came out, and then the Secretary of Education clamped it down very tightly. And Tom, you want to elaborate just a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So when these CARES fundings were first announced, they kind of made it seem like it'd be available to basically any student, no matter what their enrollment was. However, they did tighten that up quite a bit, at least is what it seemed like at first, where students did need to be enrolled, they needed to have completed their FAFSA application, they need to qualify for what's called Title IV funding or federal funding. And that created a lot of additional work for us. But for you guys, though, going into the fall, it should certainly still be available there for you. However, because of the rules, you do still need to be enrolled at least half time to receive it. We typically don't disperse those funds until after the add drop date, which is a little bit before the disbursement date, but after the add drop date. That's just because in order to make sure we're following the federal regulations, we want to make sure that students have actually been enrolled and attending their courses for at least a week, basically, before we can say to the government that this student basically was allowed to receive this funding because they did enroll past the add drop date. So that money will be there for you. If you do need it for the spring, what we did was, that was the first term we had it, and we allowed students to receive between $300 and $1,500 as the minimum and maximum grant amount. I would say for starting in the fall, if you do apply for it, and we should send out, typically each term we're going to try to send out notifications to students if they potentially qualify to receive it. However, the application is on our website through the financial aid, or if you go to ubalt.edu and then go to student financials and services, I forget what it's called, the link to our website basically. But if you're applying in the fall, like Terry said, it's supposed to be that you show how you were disrupted by campus operations, which is based on how you were disrupted on March 13th when the national emergency was declared. However, none of you were attending here March 13th, I would assume, unless you were an undergraduate student. But basically, when it comes to the fall, and if you are trying to apply for those funds, like Terry kind of said, was what you would, potentially apply for. Like, say when you came here, you had intended to use the library or the computer labs as for resources for internet or for computer, or maybe you intended to use the campus pantry for food resources. Those are all things that are completely acceptable to still apply for those funds in the fall. And typically we do only allow one application per term. So certainly keep those things in mind as you are applying for it. And potentially trying to, make sure that you do get the right amount that you need up to the maximum of the things that maybe you would have been using on campus had we been open, or had we been fully on campus for the fall term, basically.